Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed, ready to move out. This is Vaguely Scientific. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over Derek, which is me. The little dog laughed to see such a Jim the scientist. Hi, Jim.
Oh, that dog. Anything will set him off.
And the dish ran away with our guest this week. Welcome back, David. Hello, David.
Am I a spoon?
I guess. I didn't put that much thought into it.
Okay.
So this is a show where we haphazardly discuss the strangest questions set in by our listeners in a manner that we like to call vaguely scientific. But before we do that, it's time for a very fun science fact of the day. Jim?
I always thought this was really fun to talk about. Bees can see a little bit of the ultraviolet spectrum, and some flowers have pigments that only show up in the ultraviolet, and these pigments help the bees to find that sweet, sweet nectar.
Yeah. Did you watch that David Attenborough show that he does like a lot of stuff with alternate color spectrum stuff?
Not that I immediately recall, but I've watched a lot of David Attenborough stuff, so maybe.
Okay. That's what it reminded me. That's where I learned this fact from.
Well, now I want to watch it because I like David Attenborough and bees.
All right. Well, we have a few questions to talk about, so why don't we jump into those right now? Question 1 this week comes to us from Daniel. Which superhero do you want to be? And since you picked Batman, which version?
How do you know?
How do you know? I want to first say that I suspect that the reason he suggested that we would want to be Batman is because I tend to, if ever somebody asks who would win in a fight, I tend to immediately say Batman before presented with the options. And I've done that a few times on this show.
Mm-hmm. If I had to be a Batman, I would be the animated series Batman because I like him the best.
I think I'd be Adam West's Batman because
that's my second favorite Batman.
The trope about Batman having a gadget for everything, that's from that. So like literally any situation you would find yourself in, you'd have a gadget for it.
Yeah. A superhero is always, a crime fighter is always prepared.
Mm-hmm. You gotta be.
That's a good reason. I didn't think of that. If I had to pick a version of Batman, I was kind of thinking maybe the Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond.
Oh.
Because then I have future tech.
You could be like my adopted son.
I could?
Oh, because I picked the animated series Batman.
You're right.
Yeah.
I thought like your literal in real life adopted son, and I was like, but why?
Yeah, that would be odd because you're in your 30s and I'm in my 30s.
Not just your adopted son, but also, as it turns out, your actual clone son.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Spoilers.
If we're, I mean, that's from Justice League cartoon, which I don't know if that's canon to Batman Beyond.
That was the intended ending of Batman Beyond before it was canceled, from what I heard.
Oh, I never heard that. I figured they were just messing with the timeline.
I heard that, because a lot of the big thing about Terry McGinnis being like the successor to Batman was that like they've tried to give Batman successors in the comics and nobody was ever as good as Bruce Wayne, and so they thought, well, the only person who can actually replace Bruce Wayne is a literal clone of Bruce Wayne,
like the boys from Brazil, except with the superhero instead of Hitler.
Yeah. So better.
What I don't like about that though was I don't think that solves the problem. Really, I think because I liked Terry McGinnis just being the adopted son, and it's just like he's like basically a new Robin, except he's Batman. Because that's more in line with Bruce Wayne's.
All the cool stuff Bruce Wayne can do is not genetic.
So originally, Bruce Wayne was sort of training Dick Grayson to be a possible replacement Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with Terry McGinnis, that kind of ended up actually happening because he was too old to be Batman. So Dick Grayson never got the opportunity to place Batman during that tenure of Batman. But the reason I don't like having him be a clone is because that's essentially Amanda Waller solves the problem. And she's the lady from Suicide Squad, for people who don't know. But that's how they introduce it. It's like, oh, we secretly cloned Bruce Wayne. And it's like, Amanda Waller's underhanded, government tactics turned out to be the answer. And I was like, I don't really like that as much.
We secretly replaced Batman with Folger's crystals. Let's see if anyone notices.
Well, it was kind of like the whole, because Jim, you said the things that make Batman aren't genetic, but like it's the whole nature versus nurture thing. Like they realized that, and so they cloned Bruce Wayne and made Terry McGinnis, and then they orchestrated this whole thing to try to give him like the same life experience, I guess, which of course didn't work.
Oh, kind of like the boys from Brazil.
Yeah. So I agree, Dave, that would be that's the Suicide Squad lady is just right all along. And
I don't like her. I don't think you're supposed to like her.
Right.
Like she's very.
Can I get on record saying something that is maybe controversial?
Always.
I don't think I want to be Batman because his parents are dead, and I like my parents.
Was just about to say that this question. I preface this whole question by saying I actually would not want to be Batman at all, because his life is kind of miserable.
Yeah. Like, out of all the superheroes, I think that he might have one of the worst backstories and lives. At least Alfred's cool. I would hang with Alfred. But I don't need to be Batman to hang with Alfred. I could just go to the Mahjong club.
I don't really understand the question, really. Like, I mean, what does it mean to be a superhero?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, who would you be? Like, I mean, would you be Batman? I mean, like, but Bruce Wayne's been Batman. Dick Grayson's been Batman. Like, what does that mean?
Right. I have a few different ways that I was going to bring up that we could maybe take this. And I was like, which superhero do you want to like literally live the life of? And I would say very few of them.
Yeah. Superheroes by and large have miserable backstories.
Yeah. Another way would be maybe which set of powers would you want? And then, I mean, I could think of more examples, but the go-to would be Superman. Yeah. If I just have Superman's powers, like, that's all the powers, mostly.
Yeah. Silver Age Superman.
Silver Age Superman. That's the superhero powers I want. But then the last way, which Dave kind of got at a little bit already, is like maybe which superhero would you want to take the mantle of?
Oh.
In which case, like, still very few of them. Because, like, even if we stick on Batman, like, all the Robins are kind of, like, in possible line to take the mantle of Batman, and that's a lot of work that I don't want to do.
Yeah. You know who would be an interest... Well, no, because, I was thinking about Iron Man, because I started reading a little bit of Ironheart, and Ironheart is... she is sort of the successor to Iron Man in the comics after something happens to Tony Stark. I honestly don't know what happened to him, but he's not there anymore. He seems to be dead. And but Ironheart had a really interesting sort of like run, and I read the first 2 trade paperbacks of it. And I was like, taking on the mantle of Iron Man would be kind of neat because you get all these cool tech gizmos. But then I was like, but there's also like this conspiracy behind the scenes that is like doing something counter to Ironheart. So I don't think I want to deal with that, even though Ironheart herself is like a fun, happy-go-lucky teenage girl kind of person. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to also say Ms. Marvel, but I don't think I want to take on Ms. Marvel's mantle because, like, there was also a lot of weird inhuman stuff going on behind the scenes that she had to contend with. And I was like,
I was thinking maybe a good contender, even though this is not one of my favorite characters, but maybe the Green Lantern. Because there are so many Green Lanterns, and that kind of is just, you get to be you, but you get superpowers.
Yeah. They generally don't have a tremendous amount of trauma in their history.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the Flashes.
Oh,
I thought about that too. Yeah.
Not Barry Allen.
No,
'cause
that would suck.
his mom dies, but I don't know that the Flashes have all that tragic backstories. And also, they get to like move super fast and do the whole time dilation thing, which is pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can you?
And that's one of the
Can you
power
like hold a
sets
mug
that-
of coffee and just like heat it by vibrating your hand really fast?
Yes.
I feel like he could, yeah.
Yeah, then,
Yeah.
then I'd be down.
Flash has an OP power set.
It is. And then all the plot holes of like, could
The
you
Speed
run
Force.
carrying? Yeah. Could you run across town carrying that very same mug of coffee without spilling it? No, but yes, because Speed Force.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if one of us had Flash's powers, this show would be a lot easier to do because we could just answer questions ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, let's go test.
Yeah.
How does Flash run on water? Let me go find out.
Yeah, we kind of accidentally already answered the which Batman version.
True. True.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going into other superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Batman's not one of my first picks.
Yeah. This might be an odd choice, but because there seems to be relatively little. Well, that's not true because some comics have come along since then that I feel perhaps are not canon. But I was thinking Space Ghost would be like the 1960s version of Space Ghost from the cartoon, not Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I don't think I want to be that one.
You already kind of are that.
I wasn't
Talk
aware
show
that
host.
there was a version before Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah, he was like a cool. Well, I say cool. He was like a Saturday morning cartoon, like Space Ghost and the Herculoids and Dino Boy and Birdman. There was
Isn't it kind of the same as like just Hanna-Barbera had the rights to the IP, just like they did with Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law?
Basically, yeah, because they made it. So
it's just like, let's repurpose this character into a silly talk show host.
yeah. But Space Ghost has a pretty cool power set. He can fly, turn invisible, like all the different power bands. Like he's got ice beam and heat beam and like power beam, all the good beams, you know.
All right, but could he beat Goku?
Oh, that's the real question.
I mean, no, because Goku can like blow up a planet.
No, I was just kidding. I don't.
I have a new question. Is Goku
Sure.
a superhero?
By my definition, yes.
Okay.
But I have a very broad definition of superhero.
It might be fun to be Goku.
Doesn't a superhero kind of have to be like isn't that an American thing?
Yeah, but like it's
Are the
also
Power
just
Rangers superheroes?
Yeah. They're
I was thinking Ultraman even.
Super Sentai and Guyver and Kikaido, like they're Japanese superheroes. And
Yeah.
I've been having this debate with a few people recently that like they like manga but they don't like comic books, and I'm like, they're all comic books.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but it's a different culture.
it's a different culture, but
Mhm.
it's the same. Like, why do you gotta keep them separate? I don't know.
I have not read any of My Hero Academia, but those are all superheroes.
Yeah, I also haven't read that. I've heard I've heard it is.
I would say that Goku isn't a superhero because his universe had a superhero at one point. Doesn't Gohan become a superhero?
Oh, yeah, Great
Saiyaman.
Saiyaman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Goku never did that, so I don't think he is a superhero.
Got to have a costume.
Not all superheroes have secret identities, though. Like Luke Cage is a superhero.
Yeah, but I think one of the prerequisites to being a superhero is you have to consider yourself a superhero.
Oh, okay. It's just a
Oh.
self-fulfilling sort of thing.
Well, I don't think you can accidentally become one. I mean, you can, but like at some point you have to acknowledge that that's what you do. Like, even if it's euphemistically, it was like, oh, I fight crime
I'm a crime fighter. And-
with my fists. And it's like, okay, that's a superhero. But Goku doesn't really do that. He's just like, I like to train and eat food and be Goku. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he does save the world occasionally.
Yeah. He sort of happens on problems, and it's not like he's actively trying to go out and save people. It's just like, oh, Cell, he's here now. Let's punch him.
So he's not a superhero, but he is a superhero.
He's
Yeah,
a Super Saiyan.
Like lowercase
That
2
too.
words.
Yeah. He's a hero that happens to be super and a Super Saiyan.
Yeah. Well, let us know, listeners, what superhero you would like to be and how you interpret this question. In the meantime, we're going to move on to question 2 for this week, which is a mini question.
Ooh.
And that is, what kind of monkey is Curious George?
Well, here's the thing I know about Curious George, because I looked it up, and it was the first result on Google, which happened to be the Curious George wiki, which somebody made, I guess. So, and this is very accurate. Someone rightly pointed out that Curious George does not have a tail, therefore he's probably an ape and not a monkey.
Ah, au contraire, Jim.
Oh.
Well, not really au contraire, but so there is one species of monkey that does not have a tail.
Ah.
And that
does
is
it look like Curious George?
It does not, but
okay.
Here's a rabbit hole.
Oh no.
The Barbary macaque is the only monkey that lacks a tail. So a lot of people say if Curious George is a monkey, which the author claimed, that it has to be a Barbary macaque. But the problem with that is that the Barbary macaque, that's a hard word to say as casually as I'm doing it.
That's the problem with it.
That's the problem with it. Is that it looks nothing like Curious George.
Mm-hmm.
So the claim that the author does specifically call Curious George a monkey is kind of a sticking point for a lot of people. But Curious George was created in 1939, which was at a time
before we invented monkeys.
Before we invented monkeys, yes. Actually, before there was a clear taxonomic distinction between monkeys and apes.
Oh.
And so, while today it is actually still very common for people to say monkey when they mean ape, like a lot of people refer to chimpanzees as monkeys, just in common parlance. But
yeah.
Back in the early 40s, they weren't. How do I want to put this? It wasn't that they were wrong. It's that they were working with the information that science had provided at the time.
Right.
And so I kind of thought it was interesting that Curious George is a little bit like Pluto. We discovered that he wasn't a monkey, but that doesn't make him any less Curious George.
Right.
That's very curious.
Now, I will posit this. Maybe Curious George lives in a parallel universe where monkeys don't have tails.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, he literally does.
Yeah.
Because he's in the Curious George universe.
Yeah.
Which is also, incidentally, 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
True.
You know.
It's a cartoon universe.
Yeah, and also, as Derek was saying, it was a universe that was created in 1930s America.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, canonically, I think he is indeed in a universe where monkeys don't necessarily have tails.
Yeah.
And he's a monkey without a tail.
At least he doesn't, and he's a monkey, yeah.
Right.
Although, I mean, if we're going to modernize him, the best argument I'm seeing is that he's probably a chimpanzee because he's from Africa.
That makes sense. He looks like a chimpanzee.
Yeah, and he does look like a chimpanzee, too.
That was the other thing about the macaque argument, is that in Curious George's backstory, he's specifically found in the jungles of Africa, and macaques live in mountainous regions. So, macaques look nothing like Curious George, I should point out, but they are a contender for Sun Wukong from China.
Oh, that's the Monkey King, and I like him, and also that's a reference to Goku again.
But he has a tail, though.
He does have a tail.
Goku started with a tail.
That's true.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. I like in Monkey King, I like the part where they bury him under a mountain for 500 years.
Yeah.
That's just good. That's just good common sense. When you have someone tearing apart heaven, you put him under a mountain, give him time out.
I don't think that's one of his favorite parts.
I kind of thought he got done dirty at that part, really.
A little bit.
I mean, he got done dirty all throughout the whole, yeah.
He really did, I really sympathize with Sun Wukong a lot because, he gets kind of screwed over by the
By the patriarchy.
Yeah, by like the Jade Empire and
Yeah,
like
the bureaucracy,
the
yeah.
gods of
Right.
China, and they're all like, "Screw you, monkey!" And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm just trying to live my life, and you guys." and then he gets mad about it, justly.
Justly
Right.
mad.
And Buddha comes and is like, "All right, monkey, I'm putting you under a mountain because we're doing Buddhism now." And like, he just really, nobody told him the rules. He was a monkey. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
He didn't even care about like all the heaven stuff. He was content to live on his mountain and he'd eat his fruit and hang with his monkey friends. And the heavenly hosts were like, "Hey, we can't have this superpowered monkey hanging around. We better give him a job." Well, what kind of job should we give him? The worst one.
You know what?
Yeah.
The part I don't like, I get Buddha comes in there and stops Monkey from destroying all the nice things in heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you got to quit this, monkey, because you need time out. I get that, but that's kind of like, two different parties are fighting, and you just come in and punish the one that you like at that moment see as winning.
Yeah.
And like, did the Buddha ever punish the Jade Emperor? I don't know.
yeah, that also feels very much like a Deus Ex Machina. Like, I guess Buddha isn't a god, but like, I mean,
Well, it is the Buddha's palm, so it's
he does the Buddha's palm, and it's also, it changes the tone quite a bit, because up until that point, it's like monkeys having all these adventures versus he's causing trouble, and then suddenly Buddha shows up and is like, "Oh, monkey, you're not being enlightened, and we're gonna learn a lesson," and it's kind of like whenever they did I once saw a church version of Christmas Carol. They did it in a church, and it was like Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. But at the end, instead of the ghost of Christmas future coming, Jesus shows up, and he's like, "Ebenezer Scrooge, you are selfish and greedy, and that is unchristian, and I'm Jesus, and I'm going to teach you a lesson." And it's just the whole story kind of stops so we can listen.
Yeah. And then Jesus traps Charles Dickens under a mountain for 5
Right. And
I remember that part.
That was a very strange part. I was not expecting that to happen to Ebenezer Scrooge, of all people. But like,
yeah, Scrooge, not Dickens.
I don't know. These
It
like
happens to
major
Dickens too.
These major deities from major world religions keep putting folk heroes under mountains, and I just don't. I'm not here for it.
It's an epidemic, really, and it
Yeah.
needs to stop.
We have enough mountains as it is.
We have enough mountains.
Hey, is Sun Wukong a superhero? Because I could get behind that one.
I've always considered that he's like. I've always thought he was like Chinese Superman. So I kind of think of him as a superhero.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would maybe I could change my answer to that one.
I kind of say same argument for Goku, really. On that one.
Okay.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
That's true.
he definitely gets into situations where he could be classified as one.
Mhm.
He's got some really cool powers, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was victorious in strife.
But more importantly,
Yeah.
is Curious George a superhero?
He's my
No,
superhero.
he's a super villain.
Curious George isn't a villain. He's just curious little monkey.
He saves people all the time from the trouble that he starts.
Yeah, yeah.
He's Bizarro.
Oh, he's one of those. What do you call it? Like, he causes problems on purpose so that he can then solve them and be the hero. Isn't that the plot of a movie?
I don't know. That's just what Bizarro does.
In Tomorrow Never Dies, the villain was a newspaper magnate who tried to start a war on purpose to try to then report on said war. That's kind of what Curious George is.
So he's a Bond villain.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd watch that Bond movie.
Listeners, let us know the title of the movie James Bond goes up against Curious George.
Oh man.
That's the only one where I wouldn't be rooting for Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we actually have a third question this week.
Whoa.
So why don't we talk about that now?
All right.
Question 3 this week. Is gold useful? Is there anything else we could or should base the value of currency on?
I have a weird argument for this one.
Okay.
And that is that, well, gold is useful for some things. Like, it's a very good electrical conductor. But alternatively, like, because it's not useful for a whole lot beyond that, might as well use that. It's not like you're using it to make pop cans, you know?
So you're arguing that it should be used as money because it's otherwise useless.
Well, I learned that it's not, while it's otherwise useless, and I think that is an accurate statement, it has qualities that make it like a reasonable choice. And those qualities are that it's like just rare enough with a huge asterisk after that sentence. And that it is a metal that is not radioactive and does not rust and does not degrade.
I don't know why it not being radioactive is a good thing.
Because really?
No, not really.
Okay.
I just wanted someone to like react in the way that you did.
Okay, then.
So I'm happy.
I can never tell with you, Jim, if it's like a legitimate thought or...
Well, gold is like malleable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can't make weapons out of it.
Yeah, but you can melt it over a fire enough to like put a stamp on it, so it's like kind of easily workable.
Well, and also it doesn't corrode, so like I don't know. That's why it's good as a form of currency because you can turn it into small exchangeable things like coins,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know if there's like a better metal, or if it should even be a metal. Are we trying to replace gold?
Well, the thing we have to also keep in mind is that I don't know to what extent other countries are on any kind of gold standard, but we sure aren't.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the weird thing to me is that we still reference the gold standard, and it is what the dollar was originally based on. But there are people now saying like paper money is now our default currency, but the value of paper money, because paper isn't rare. So it's not the object. Mm-hmm. But the value of it is pretty arbitrary, just kind of based on how much, like how it is distributed, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in that sense, like gold also kind of was already that arbitrary.
True. But at least gold doesn't corrode, and you can't flush it. Well, you can flush it down the toilet. I lied.
You can. You might hurt the toilet.
People used to have gold teeth, right?
Yeah. And that would actually be a really good use for it because, like you said, it doesn't corrode.
It doesn't corrode, and it's like
rusty teeth.
You can like easily fit it into a shape that will fit a tooth, and then it's pretty solid at that point because your mouth is never going to get hot enough to melt the gold. Ideally,
well, you know what?
Maybe not.
You know what would be a good unit of basing currency on? That would be just as it would have the intrinsic rarity of gold, but it would adjust to the population. And this is inspired by the dentistry using gold. And that is teeth.
I knew you were going there, and
did you say teeth?
Yeah, teeth.
Yep.
Okay.
Teeth is currency.
Don't know what
everybody
expected.
Starts off with a set that they don't actually need to keep in their mouths. So everybody has like an amount.
So baby
like
teeth.
An intrinsic value. It's actually a beautiful thing. If you think
baby teeth are like the change, and then the adult teeth are like the whole dollar amounts.
The fairy community has been working with this currency for hundreds of years.
Yeah. There's actually a wrestler right now in AEW. No. His name is Danhausen, and part of his shtick is that he is he is a demon that is very. How to explain Danhausen? His character is if Conan O'Brien was possessed by a demon, and also he likes to collect human teeth. So Danhausen would be rich already. It is very important for him to have a lot of money as a part of his character. He constantly wants to be paid and wants to buy a blimp. So
I want a blimp.
I also want a blimp, actually. There was a really good James Bond villain with a blimp.
Oh, we should adapt to the blimp standard.
We should.
Yeah.
The blimp is the equivalent of $1. a single blimp.
Well, no, because a blimp, there aren't that many blimps.
Okay.
But I think it should just be the way we differentiate between classes. Like,
because we need more of those.
you're poor if you don't have a blimp. Like, that's the only. It doesn't matter how much money you have.
So it's a status symbol.
Yeah, it's a status. But like, if you're above a certain income level, you're legally required to purchase a blimp.
Yeah. Instead of wasting your money on something like a Ferrari, you could have a blimp and just hover above the town.
You can get your Ferrari after you pay off your blimp.
You got to cover the blimp first.
I'd rather have a blimp. You can hover over a town.
I don't think I'm getting a Ferrari if I have a blimp. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't even want a Ferrari because, like, if you go to, like, Walmart in a Ferrari and someone hits your Ferrari with a shopping cart, you're going to be really mad. But if you go to Walmart in a Honda Civic, it's like, well, my car's scratched, but at least I didn't pay $150 million for it.
Yeah.
Could you have a blimp made out of gold?
No.
I
mean, you could, but it wouldn't fly.
It would go over like a Led Zeppelin.
It doesn't have to fly.
Oh, well, in that case.
In that case, yes, you could, but...
Well, here, actually, so, you can't have a blimp made of gold, but I bet you could have a what are Zeppelins made out of? I need to Google this. Because here's the thing. Zeppelins have that metal frame inside of them. So could you make but gold is super heavy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would be skeptical. I was also picturing like a completely gold blimp, which I guess isn't necessary, but it's what I pictured.
A combination of aluminum and copper as well as 2 to 3 other metals. Ooh, but what if you had a blimp that was... The skin was like made of gold foil. I don't know how well that would hold together, but
like the edible kind.
Like
yeah, maybe a little thicker than that.
Is edible gold actually gold?
Yeah,
yeah. It's a gold leaf. It's a very small amount of gold.
Yeah, it's not gold. Like you said, gold's not very reactive, so you can eat it and it will just go through you.
So I'm reading here a few things. Dentistry is listed among them, but there are also some kind of rare diseases.
Oh, I thought we were going back to teeth.
I'm going back to gold, which
good.
I feel
that's
like
what the question was.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm looking at other uses for gold that. So there's some medical uses where they inject a small amount of gold into you to treat some radioactivity poisonings. And then it's also been used a lot in like aerospace technology as the circuitry.
Oh, yeah.
And so what's kind of becoming interesting to me, the little bit I'm reading here, is that while basing our currency on gold because of like what Jim said, it has no other use, so we might as well use that. As technology develops, it seems like it is actually becoming more useful now. So yeah, gold in the space age is actually more useful than it was in the gold age.
Then it's a good thing we don't use it for money anymore.
I mean, we don't. So something else I wanted to mention, they're in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A colony of some aliens settles on Earth in the prehistoric era. Which,
yeah.
From my recollection, is the origin of humanity in the Hitchhiker's Guide universe, but I'm not positive about that.
I believe you're correct.
But there is when they're trying to establish a society, they decide we've decided to adopt the leaf as our form of currency, like leaves from trees. And consequently, we have set fire to several forests to stop, over circulation of money.
Yeah, that sounds like humanity, yeah.
So leaves are probably a bad idea.
I was thinking of like other metals that might be useful. And like platinum is worth a lot of money, but it's comparatively rare. Copper is way too common, and it's also a lot more useful in a lot of actually, it's more useful because it's more common. I mean, hydrogen would be a very poor choice for a cavalcade of reasons.
Well, anything that's a gas or a liquid, probably difficult to...
Anything toxic or poisonous, I suppose, would be bad. Like, I was about to say mercury, and then I was like, maybe not.
Plutonium.
Mercury would be a sweet money, though. Like, it's fun to play with. Can you imagine money that's fun to play with? Like, no one would ever spend any money. Our economy would crash.
Like Monopoly? Oh, you said fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't mean like the physical money itself is fun.
Yeah.
Like if you had mercury money and you could slosh it back and forth in a tube, I'd be like, I'm never spending this.
Never spending. Well, I mean, that's how coin collecting starts. And I know several people who refuse to spend $2 bills because they're like, it's fun to have them, but they're worth $2.
Yeah. I want to get a $2 bill so that I can spend it and see if anyone is like, there's no such thing.
There was another thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is more because I wanted to see if you guys remembered this. So this is more anecdotal for our childhood than an actual answer to the question. But when we were kids, we would run around in the woods and pick up like sticks and decide that they were like swords and like magical weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember we also kind of lived near a golf course. And I remember going into the woods and finding all the discarded golf balls that had been lost in like the swampy mud and collecting the golf balls. And I seem to remember having set up some kind of like fantasy market system where you could get this stick that we've decided is a magic wand or something. But you had to trade an amount of golf balls, which was our currency.
Yeah. The golf ball economy.
The golf ball economy. And I remember that existing when we were kids. I don't know if you guys remembered that.
I don't remember that, weirdly enough.
I remember having a big pile of golf balls in our backyard, which our parents were not thrilled about.
I remember one time our other neighbor and we went down into the woods and there was a tennis court. And we found a milk crate's worth of tennis balls and brought them all back.
Oh, yeah, because there was that one house with the tennis court.
Yeah. I also found an Optimus Prime action figure, which is weird.
We were just little thieves, I think.
Listen, you lose something in the woods. That's public property.
That's finders keepers rules.
Exactly. The moral is don't lose things in the wood.
Our currency system should be based on finders keepers.
I mean, that's what bearer bonds are, right?
All right, listeners, well, let us know this week if you could be a blimp, which blimp would it be and why is it Batman? I don't know. Jim, do we have any listener mail this week?
We do.
All right, see you guys next time.
As always, you can send us listener mail at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com. You can comment on our blog. You can like us on Facebook. You can tweet at vaguelysci. And this email comes to us from Tom and is in regards to episode 95. Pokemon could be Digimon. And Tom says, Pokemon can't be Digimon because Digimon can evolve backwards when they're tired. As far as I know, no Pokemon can do this. I think that's correct.
I believe that Pokemon can be Digimon if they want to be. It's
all about mind over matter, which is what Kadabra is very good at.
Yeah. Yeah. There should be like a sponge Pokemon, or no, a jellyfish Pokemon that can like swap between its evolutions.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And it just keeps leveling up, but it keeps evolving backwards. And forwards.
There are Pokemon that change. They call them forms, and it's spelled Forme because they needed to do that, I guess. But they could change forms from one thing to another, and that's what that reminded me of.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
like
confusing.
Shaman. Yeah, it's different than evolution. It's like changing your whole body plan, morphology. You know.
This is why I got out of Pokemon. It's too many things that are overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
That makes it bad.
It's getting thick with canon now. Well, thank you for that listener mail. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, please email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and all the other great places podcasts hang out. Subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out, and so does telling your friends.
Yeah, tell all of your friends, because they'll like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Our Vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. It's skateboard season. I don't know why I keep bringing this up. Literally no one has bought a skateboard.
Because you're pushing the skateboards.
I just think it's hilarious that that's an option.
Buy a skateboard.
Buy a skateboard so Jim will shut up.
Yeah, if one person buys a skateboard, I will never mention them again.
I really hope that works. So thank you to David for being our guest this week.
That's me. Hello.
Yay.
I mean, goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah. For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
I'm Dave.
Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow. Jumping over me again. Quit it, cow.
Toodaloo, everyone.
Dave, I can't hear you now.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now I can.
I wasn't saying anything.
Okay,
That's why we couldn't hear you, as it turns out.
Sometimes that's the reason.